This is a video about a short story anthology by, but not selected by or compiled by, Philip Kindred Dick. Old Philly K. Ugh. While doing the research for this video, I discovered that Philip K. Dick people who like Philip K. Dick call themselves dickheads. That's a thing that's happening. We'll go through what the book is and some of the stats about the book and some of what the short stories are about, and then I'll read some of it to you. Anyway, let's get on with it. Electric Dreams premiered on the 17th of September in 2017 on Channel 4 and was produced by, well, quite a lot of people, among which were Ronald D. Moore and Brian Say My Name Cranston.
You're goddamn right.
There are 10 standalone episodes adapted from 10 Philip K. Dick stories. This is the accompanying anthology and collection, and ordinarily that would be about where it ends. You'd be like, oh, here are the stories that inspired the TV series. We can sort of see where it came from or whatever. You know how it goes with a short story collection. It's just sort of all the other ones you've read in a different order. Anyone who's read Arthur C. Clarke at length will know that there are hundreds of collections out there, but it's just he only wrote so many short stories and they've all just been sort of reordered and re-released. Except it's not just that. This short story collection contains introductions by each person who adapted the short story for television, which makes it quite a bit more interesting. This is a short story collection, but with notes. We like notes. So what is it? It's 10 short stories spread over 213 pages. According to readinglength.com, the average person with an average reading speed of 250 words a minute, which seems like something out of Inception.
5 minutes in the real world gives you an hour in the dream.
Anyway, reading at that speed, it should take the average reader specifically 3 hours and 33 minutes to read. Readinglength.com also states a length of 53,250 words. The genre is science fiction and the publisher is Gollancz. Okay, Gollancz. And you can find it in paperback, digital and audiobook form in all of the places you'd expect to find that. I would recommend that you buy it used in a independent bookshop. So, 10 stories. Are you ready? Exhibit piece. A 22nd century museum curator obsessed with his 20th century exhibit finds his reality beginning to blur when he starts to lose track of what's real and what's in the museum. The commuter. A railway worker finds his reality beginning to blur when he discovers a hidden stop on his line. For anyone familiar with Philip K. Dick's work, you will know that most of his short stories are about the blurring of lines of reality and what's real and what's not. But I promise you there's only 2 like that in this collection. The Impossible Planet. An ancient woman requests that a ship take her to old Earth, a planet that has long since passed into legend for the human race. The ship captain agrees, but has no idea how to get there. The Hanging Stranger. Disturbed by the sight of a stranger who has been publicly hung, a man slowly realises he's the only one who seems to have noticed. Sales pitch. A man, unsatisfied with the grind of his corporate life, attempts to dream of a better life until a strange robot turns up at his house claiming to be able to solve all of his problems. The Father Thing. A boy discovers his father has been replaced by a malevolent alien, the Hoodmaker. Telepaths are taking over the world. A Hoodmaker is trying to stop them. Foster, You're Dead. An unseen enemy threatens humanity. A boy feels fearful and left out because his parents will not buy this year's latest bomb shelter. Human Is. A woman becomes suspicious when her previously cold and caring husband comes back from an alien planet, a completely changed man. Autofac. The last remnants of humanity cling on to life as automated factories slowly consume the Earth's resources. There is no doubt in my mind that these are definitely some of Philip K. Dick's better short stories. The Commuter in particular is word by word, sentence by sentence, line by line, the best prose that I think I've ever read of Philip K. Dick's. It has depth and warmth. If you've ever read Philip K. Dick stuff, I mean, he builds worlds and he has some amazing ideas, but emotional depth is not something he does. Of course, each story, like the best of science fiction, doesn't really talk about the world to come, but the world that is, it points out simple truths within our reality. Autofac, for instance, is, well, as I already said, a factory which is consuming the world, but is, of course, obviously about consumerism and capitalism, but points towards unthinking AIs as well. Algorithms that just produce things for us to consume without any real thought or conscience. Sound familiar? The real joy of this collection, though, lies in the introductions by the writers who were tasked with adapting these short stories for television. I've already mentioned Ronald D. Moore as a producer. He is, in fact, also the adapter of one of the first short stories in this collection. But there is also Michael Dinner, who, if you look him up, turns out he's directed almost every episode of everything you've ever seen, including Grey's Anatomy, which I can't watch because I think I'll go down the park and I'll see a pigeon, then I'll have some kind of sleeping disease. It genuinely, existentially worries me. Well done, Grey's Anatomy, I guess. You see, having a bridging text between the television series and the short stories is a little bit like watching a dubbed foreign film with the subtitles on. Somewhere in between those two things is the truth of the translation. Somewhere in between the short story and the adaptation is the central idea of each tale. Anyway, of course, the last words, well, this time don't go to the author. They go to Jack Thorne, who adapted The Commuter. What's to say about P.K. Dick that hasn't been said? I'm sure there are a list of people in this book praising his vision and ability to transport the reader to faraway places in a blink of an eye. His imagination is so full, so thorough. As someone who read a lot of science fiction, there is always a difference between those writers who have ideas and those who build worlds. PKD builds universes. But what I most admire about him, and what drew me into The Commuter, is that he always finds the ordinary in the extraordinary. None of his characters are superheroes in waiting, rather they are ordinary Joes who have been given a glance through a window and respond accordingly. They don't suddenly change who they are, but as the world transforms, so they transform within it. My granddad spent his life as a ticket clerk in Euston Station in London, so The Commuter immediately drew me in. The idea that he'd been given a chance to see new possibilities, to see places that didn't exist, but could exist, to see somewhere which he could love and which allowed the possibility of escape from his life. I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to spoil the twists and turns of this story, but as always with PKD's work, it ends up asking profound questions about what as humans we want and what we should get. I've spent the last year immersed in this story, and there are still questions I'm having to ask about it as I reread it. I hope you find it as beautiful as I do.